Greetings everyone, this is Rambling Collector here, and welcome back for another book review. Now for the subject of today's video, I believe it's going to be pretty fun. For today we're going to be talking about the independently made webcomic, Aurora, by Red. Now if the name is a little bit confusing, let me clarify. I'm of course talking about Red from the YouTube channel known as Overly Sarcastic Productions, of which I am a major fan, to say the least. So when I found out about the fact that they had an independent webcomic being made by one of their members, I immediately knew I had to snatch it up, especially when I recognized the art style. Now the fact being that you can read this webcomic for free does not deter me from the fact that I still wish to grab the physical releases as they come out, especially after having dove into Volume 1. Now, to bear in mind, I will be only talking about my experiences revolving around Volume 1, but needless to say, after reading just this one book, I'm very excited to pick up more of this whenever I can in the future, at least once I've chipped down my collection a little bit, or at least by a good chunk. Let's be real, I've got enough books on the shelf at this rate to leave me about months or even maybe years of content if I keep at it. Anyway, let's get started, shall we? So, first and foremost, Aurora presents a unique high fantasy world filled with gods, beastmen, and mages, all taking place on the dead body of a primordial being, with every character creating the chemical equivalent of a D&D party, with all the comedy and heartfelt moments that comes with. And, quite frankly, no, I am not taking back that statement. The more I read of this comic, the more I view the whole main cast of this story as a legit D&D party. And quite frankly, I stand by the fact of the comedy route because so many moments within this comic have made me just stop and chuckle for a bit at just like the weird but also very dry humor at times that just pops up in here. I love it to death. Honestly, I really do. And these characters are all just a lot of fun. But more than that, speaking of characters, I will say Kendall, our main hero, he's honestly just such a fun character to follow, with the fact that with being a host for an immortal being, he's now having to discover the limits and experiences of being reduced to just a slightly more powerful, yet still very mortal human being, with so much naivety that is honestly adorable. Like, the fact is, okay, for context here, Kendall was the host body for a deity known as Vash, who was the guardian and patron of a city named after him known as Vash, which was just completely buried within the first couple issues of the comic, or at least I should say the first few pages, by a character that we know only as the Collector, who managed to grab the soul of Vash while leaving the body behind. And this body now has a brand new soul known as Kendall, who still has a connection to Vash via them sharing the same body. And yet, Kendall is himself not Vash. He is his own unique soul that is very childlike in nature, but the fact that he has to contend with the fact that he is, in fact, a mortal being and not the host of a god, it's very fun, but also very humbling to watch him having to deal with and overcome some of these limitations. But especially one of the more funnier moments, in my honest opinion, is when the poor guy just completely collapses due to lack of sleep. Everyone is so worried about him, wondering if he's been like poisoned or something. He's saying he has a headache. And then one of them just goes, "When was the last time you slept?" And then he just responds with, "I don't sleep." And everyone just stops what they're doing and just tells this poor boy to go to sleep. Which, considering their whole journey has been multiple days on end, and Kendall himself has just not slept at all. Oh my goodness. I'm not gonna lie though, the whole setup of everyone just telling poor Kendall to sleep, for the love of God, is so funny to me, and just It's amazing. But more than that, beyond just Kendall, Alanua and Aaron are also really fun as characters, with Alanua becoming practically the host of Life herself, and I say Life as in the deity known as Life. And Aaron basically just being the major equivalent of the Avatar, with the fact that he has mastered so many elements of magic, from ice to fire to lightning to shadow. And he does this to try to figure out the mysteries of the wastelands, which are constantly being harassed by multiple storms right at the very center of their continent. And the fact that he is just wielding so many elements like Sypha from Castlevania, yep, he's literally the avatar, or at least the equivalent of an avatar in this series, and it is awesome to see. Now, as for Faust, I can't form too much of an opinion on him just yet, but he also seems like a very fun character, especially with the fact that he is a beastman who has had to grow up on the very fringes of society, trying to either find some way to cure himself of his condition of being a beastman, or at the very least just trying to survive in a world that just has a prejudice against beastmen. But Faust honestly seems like such a fun guy. Yes, he's a little bit rough around the edges, but can you blame him for having to live on the edges of society and being a little bit brusque? Either way, he has a bit of a sarcastic wit about him that I do enjoy quite a lot. But Alanua is honestly such a sweet elven girl, especially with the fact that she had to grow up with an affliction upon herself where life magic supposedly would have just eaten her alive if she ever used too much of it. Until eventually she got better by becoming the literal host, or possibly one of the hosts, of life herself. And this is actually expressed by the fact that Alanua's eyes actually change. Like, if you look at the first few issues of the comic where we first meet her, and then later on we see that her eyes are changed from blue to green, and that was a major indicator that I completely glossed over. If I'm being completely real, I didn't even realize the eye color change. And then I look back and I'm like, wait a minute. It took me a minute there. But overall, it just tells you how good the writing is when some of these little details just kind of skim over your head as you have to go back and reread and you're like, oh, that makes sense. But again, the whole entire party just meeting and gathering up together really does give me like D&D campaign vibes, and I love it. But also, I enjoy how deep the lore is, and frankly, this just goes to show how much Aurora here is a good example of high fantasy. With deity, sorcery, and all the different things that come with it, it is a very good example of high fantasy done right. More often than not, it's really hard to juggle that sort of power scaling, especially with the fact that you have powerful beings such as beastmen, then you've got gods running around, superpowered sorcerers and everything. It's really hard to see all of this and just think, how does this all balance out? And yet, Aurora does it very, very well, at least in my opinion. But more than that, it's just an enjoyable read. And as such, I'd really love to get my hands on book 2 sometime down the road just to see more of the story play out. But also, what is it with every single one of these little party members and just having some form of emotional turmoil and trauma? Like, seriously, where's the fantasy world equivalent of a therapist? Because I feel like they'd be rolling in gold by the end of it. Hell, I'm pretty sure if you put a therapist in any major fantasy series, they would be rich from the amount of times a main character has to come to them to just talk about and cope with their trauma. It's just something I'm noticing here. But moving on. But like I said again, as amazing as the writing is, the art style alone also really plays a part, and it does so very well. It has like this hand-drawn, slightly cartoony style, but it works so well. And the main reason I feel like I enjoy it so much is because it goes through the art style of Overly Sarcastic Productions with the avatar arts for the various hosts and all that, but it's played out and brought to life in such a grandiose way here, but it works. I love the attention to detail with the different colors, everyone having unique little designs. But also, what is up with everyone having either very magnificent or very fluffy hair? Like, seriously, what is up with that? It just makes them absolutely pop as just these radiant beings all together. But again, the art style, I feel, really helps to supplement and really make the story pop all the more. Especially with all the different characters that we're introduced to over the course of the story. And it is gorgeous, very colorful, and I would absolutely say if you're just looking for something that visually speaks to you, this might be a good one to look into. At least that's just my humble opinion. And I feel like even though it can be rough at times, I feel like it's just gonna only get better with its own unique little style as it goes on. But we'll have to wait and see. Overall, though, I feel very confident at giving Aurora, just from Volume 1, a solid 10 out of 10. And like I've said before, the comic is free to check out on the official website, which I will leave a link to the description. And I will leave a link to it in the description down below for you all to check out. But also, if you really just want to support them more, I would recommend picking up the physical copies. As of right now, books 1 and 2 are out right now, so if you want to just dive right in and again have the comic in your hands, if you're like me and you're a physical lover and you just want to feel that book in your hands, I definitely would recommend it. Give it a shot. One way or another, it's definitely going to be fun. And if you're like me and just a fan of the Overly Sarcastic Productions YouTube channel, the work that they do, go give them a watch if you haven't already, but also just enjoy all their various written works that they got coming out. Which, side note, I cannot wait at some point to get my hands on the Venezia. That alone looks amazing. Well, it's not a genre that I've really dove into of an epic poem. I'm definitely intrigued just for the fact that it's Overly Sarcastic Productions doing it. Like, come on. I know that's a fan talking, but what can you do? But anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, subscribe if you're interested for more, and if you have any other recommendations, please feel free to let me know as well in the comment section down below. I'm always up for some new stories to check out. But most of all, if you're a fan of Overly Sarcastic Productions, let me know your thoughts on them down below. Anyways, thank you all for listening. This is Rambling Collector, signing off for now, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a great day, fellow readers.